Good morning, everyone. I'm Garrett Graff. I'm the director of the Aspen Institute Cyber and Technology Program, and I'm here with Gus Hunt of Accenture Federal Services, the former CTO of the CIA, who has been following these issues for a long time. And we're going to have a short conversation here about cyber resiliency, which is a topic Gus and I have talked about for years. And I'm curious, Gus, if you could lay out a little bit of sort of why you think the answer to a lot of the problems that Lisa Monaco and General Petraeus laid out there is shifting the way that organizations think about the way to respond to cyber attacks.
Yeah, sure. So quickly, let me set a definition on cyber resilience as the one that we're trying to use. And it's the ability to continuously, and I want to emphasize that word continuously, deliver the intended capabilities and outcomes despite an adverse cyber event, right? Today and through all of our past, whenever a cyber event occurred, it was fundamentally all hands on deck, shut systems down, business stops, mission stops, everything grinds to a halt. And it becomes a very expensive proposition then to remediate, to fix, and do all these things like that, right? What we really have to think about and turn this on its head and I think we have the capabilities today, if we put them together the right way to do this, is to really think about how we deliver this continuous set of operations in spite of the fact that your adversary may have successfully penetrated your network or something along those lines, right? So the ability, again, to continuously deliver the intended outcome, across the board.
And so that sounds like something that makes a lot of sense. So why is this something that companies are struggling with in thinking through cyber incident response?
Well, there's three fundamental reasons that come up in this. One is that almost every corporation has been around, every business, the U.S. government, every agency that's been around for a while has this enormous mountain of legacy applications and systems that it looks insurmountable to try and address this problem and solve it. Because to do this, what I just described, you really have to rethink the complete design of how you go at this. And this is the opportunity to play, I think, that things like IT modernization presents within the U.S. federal government as a play. It's something that I think every business ought to think about as they look to modernize their systems and things like that. But when they look at it, it looks insurmountable. It looks just too difficult to accomplish. The little cost wheels start spinning away, going astronomically ever higher across the board. And so to them, it just looks like it's too hard to accomplish. And of course, the reality is it is very hard. There is no easy button to do this. And I think it's important for business and mission and federal agencies to keep in mind that they got to their current position one step at a time, one app at a time, one data set at a time, one business need at a time, right? And the only way you're going to get out of this is the same way, one step at a time, and you just have to get started. And we can talk about what it takes to get started. But the second reason I think they find it hard is that too often they make it an IT or a cybersecurity issue. And the reality is that this is about business. It's about mission, right? And IT and cyber are there to enable the mission and the business to accomplish their goals. And so if you really think about it, the importance of resilience, the way I defined it, the ability to continue to operate, is a business/mission outcome. Business mission continues to function. And so business resilience, IT resilience, and cyber resilience all go absolutely hand in hand across the board. I think the third reason that they're having difficulty with this is that the technology maturity is to keep this continuous operation mode is just recently beginning to come about, right? It's matured to the level where we can begin to put it together. And this involves weaving together cloud technology capabilities, data-centric security operations, software-defined networking in a way that allows us to actually change the game with the cyber adversary and raise the cost of them to make it much more difficult for them not only to attack us, but even to find us and those types of things.
So you talk about this from an IT modernization standpoint, and one of the things that is so challenging in this space, as you know, from coming from the government side and now being on the private sector side, is the sort of legacy systems problem that most organizations stand with. I forget what the exact statistic is, but most companies deal with it, most CISOs deal with an average of something like 30 or 40 different security products that they're responsible for managing. And you sort of see, you and I were talking earlier about the Wired Magazine's article this month about Maersk and the NotPetya ransomware attack. $300 to $400 million worth of damages to Maersk. Would have been sort of far worse except for this one server that they had that had actually been knocked offline earlier that morning in Ghana. And but for that one server that was offline because of a power outage, their systems actually might have been down for months instead of weeks.
Right.
And so when you're thinking through how, from a global, international corporation, interconnected supply chain management standpoint, how do you begin as an organization to even understand what the IT needs are for figuring out what was going to represent resiliency for you?
Wow. So boy, that's a really loaded question. Okay. Again,
but I think it sort of gets at one of the fundamental cyber challenges, which is most of this is actually an IT problem, not a security challenge.
Yes.
This is like, this is passwords, this is patches. This isn't, by the time someone's attacking your system, it's sort of too late to start.
2.0, right. So we advocate very, very strongly that you need to be brilliant at the basics. So you've got to do your patching. You have to keep up with who's got access to what and clean your access control list, clean it up. You've got to keep your rules and everything all current and up to date. All those things are absolutely critically important to be able to do. Brilliant basics is the fundamental, right? It's like the foundation of your house, a strong foundation, everything else gets built on, right? But I think what's critical for people to remember is that brilliant basics is a retrospective set of actions. I am fixing problems of yesterday that I find about today, all right? And that's been the biggest issue with the way we've approached cybersecurity in the past, which is as a set of retrospective actions, we have actually allowed the adversary to define how we engage, right? Let's not do that. Let's take pages out of their playbook and let's redefine how to engage so that they're the ones that are trying to play catch up with us across the board. So this is where things like being very much proactive, right? Hunt, don't wait, do pressure test your environments across the board, take advantage of threat intelligence so that you can focus on the problems that are most acute to your business area or your needs and other things like that. We have to apply all those things, right? But then going back to where we are on cyber resilience, it's about then really getting yourself, to use the DoD term, left of boom, right? We have to really think about how we build and deliver our systems for the future so that they themselves are natively, naturally resilient to what's going to happen inside of the environment. And so this requires a design framework and a model that isn't in the mindset. We talked about the difficulty that organizations have in doing this. It really is a shift in mindset thinking. So I'll give you a couple of examples, right? This push to the cloud, U.S. government's got a massive push to the cloud, really good idea. A lot of people want to go there for efficiencies and cost reasons and whatnot across the board. It's actually a cybersecurity/resilience play, right? So the very thing that enables you to be cost effective in using the cloud, which is elasticity, you only pay for what you consume. If you turn that on its head, it becomes the very reason why I can become resilient and resistant to attack, because I can turn off stuff based on time, re-image clean from my vault, so I'm running something new that I know doesn't have any problems with it, and I can point it, move it someplace else inside of a cloud environment so that the adversary doesn't know particularly where it is right across the board. Data-centric security, harden your systems from the inside out, right? So assume the adversary is going to get in and therefore build the system with encryption and tokenization and anonymization and redaction and all those up front from the very, very beginning, right? Software-defined networking is the next one, of course, that comes along, right? If there's an old adage around software-defined networking that if they can't find you, they can't attack you, right? And so the purpose of software networking is to constantly change your routes. And now there are ability now to do this midstream, mid-session. I can dynamically shift routes where I'm trying to move my stuff through the cloud and whatnot, never dropping a packet, but do so in the middle of a session so that I can terminate one aspect of it and reappear someplace else. And how does the adversary follow that trail? So there's a whole bunch of these things that exist today and are now real today and very powerful today. And what we haven't done is put them together holistically to deliver the resilience outcome that I think the nation and our citizens deserve.
All right, 30 seconds or less here, because Ellen's got a great panel coming up next here. You're talking about sort of a culture fix to an IT problem. So how does an organization outside of a CIO or CTO's office drive the culture necessary to bring about resiliency?
The cultural change aspect is always the hardest thing for anybody to be able to do. What I would recommend, and I think is really important, is that organizations need to adopt DevSecOps and agile practices. And the value proposition of adopting those two is that it actually requires the IT, the cyber person, and the business person to be present at the table as decisions are made about spending any dollar that's going to then go at. So some of the dollars drive business, some of the dollars go to IT, some of the dollars go to cyber. You make coherent, transparent decisions. That transparency drives trust. That trust helps to drive the culture change. Without that, this is, I think, this is almost too hard to do if you just approach it as an IT or a cyber issue.
Great. Gus, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Garrett.
Back to Ellen Nakashima in the Washington Post.
Great, thanks. Appreciate it. Okay.
According to the U.S.